Hi guys, it's Jasmine with Real World Mental Illnesses. And so my last video was using the same exact slideshow. It was based on drug addiction / substance use disorder. However, I wanted to make a second video that's almost the same but examines a different character because I thought of a character who goes through similar struggles but maybe portrays her addiction a little differently. So very quickly, I'll re-go over the slideshow. Symptoms. So someone with a drug addiction / substance use disorder will want to swap out their thoughts and feelings for drugs. Maybe they went through something really traumatic and drugs are their coping mechanism. After the second symptom is a need for more drugs to feel the same effect over time. So basically, at first, they take a certain amount of drugs and they'll feel this much of an effect. But because they keep taking it for so long, eventually they're going to need even more drugs to feel that same effect. Third, craving for drugs several times a day. Fourth, swapping out duties you have with time for drugs. Fifth, ensuring you have enough of a supply of the drug. Sixth, spending extensive money on the drugs. And lastly, severe withdrawal symptoms without the drugs, which is especially, one of the biggest reasons why people are not able to recover sometimes. The withdrawal symptoms just lead people back to drugs. Prevalence. So about 24 million people in the world are classified as having a drug use disorder. And implications. So the reason drug use disorders are so severe is because, one, people drive, or not just driving, but they do other tasks while on drugs which can kill other people and themselves. People with a drug use disorder are 6 times more likely to commit suicide. And using drugs and having addiction specifically affects family and romantic relationships because the drugs not only change how you act, but it makes you become more secretive. And if people are telling you to stop doing drugs and you don't stop, they think that you're being selfish, and it's just this back and forth kind of fight. Now, today, our character connection is Amelia Sheperd, who's in both Private Practice and Grey's Anatomy. Both shows are in the same world. They're basically like crossover shows. And so one of the reasons she has gotten into a drug use disorder is because of her trauma. So it's in a sense, it's like a coping mechanism for her. So in her lifetime, some of the things that have happened to her, her father was shot and killed when she was 5. And as she got older and was still suffering with drugs, she lost a baby, her brother died, the love of her life died, a lot of things happened. So each of these things made it harder and harder to stay away from drugs because, especially when things were hard, she needed it as a coping mechanism. Okay, so the first video I'm going to show is a scene of her kind of spiraling out of control, and she's going to be yelling, "I want drugs, I want drugs," when her family and friends and coworkers are trying to get her to stop, and they're trying to kind of set up an intervention. She just simply spirals out of control. So I will show that first.
I don't care how old you are, you're always someone's child. I work with kids all day, I see that love. I have to give news to parents every day. Leukemia, cancer.
Give me my drugs.
Diseases.
I want my drugs. Give me my drugs. I want my drugs. Give me my drugs.
Kids
what do
with
we
diseases.
want?
There's
drugs.
no worse news.
When do we want them? Now. What do we want?
Me to
drugs.
see what this disease
when do
is
we
doing
want
to
them?
you.
Now. What do we want? Drugs.
And there are things
when do we want them?
treat
now.
the disease and
what
get
do we
your life
want?
back, and you're
drugs.
not doing them.
When do we want them?
Go to the
Now.
people who love
what
you
do we
to try
want?
to get
Drugs.
well.
When do we want them?
At least have
now.
to try
what do
because
we
you are
want?
someone's kid
drugs.
and because
when
you're
do
my
we want them? Now. What do we want? Drugs. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Drugs. When do we want them? Now.
Now in this next clip I'm going to show you, it's just a few days after her brother died, and her boyfriend tells her that it's okay to release her emotions because she hasn't cried or anything. She's been stuffing it inside. But that is a red flag because she has a drug addiction. That means that if she's not coping by doing what normal people would do, then she might be using drugs to cope. And she does admit that, and she gives her boyfriend the drugs, and then she lets herself cry. So that's a more positive video. While heartbreaking, it's positive in the sense that she does not take the drugs, although she did buy them and was originally planning to take them.
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna survive this, okay? Everybody does.
Now, that scene was very heartbreaking. I didn't want to show too much of it. But that was a clip of her admitting that she had drugs, but she gave them away. Of course, those two different clips I showed you were years apart, so not in the same year or anything. But yes. So, treatment options: opioid to deal with, it's a medication to deal with the withdrawal, CPT therapy, so that a therapist can help you figure out like why you're using drugs as a coping mechanism and how to find new coping strategies. Support groups, which are very popular for alcohol addictions and drug addictions. Contingency management programs, which basically are going to promote positive reinforcement and give you rewards every time you can stay off of drugs, and that's going to motivate you to continue to stay off of drugs. And then removing people or objects that trigger the need to do drugs, if possible. Now, in Amelia's case, her brother died, and that triggered her need to do drugs. There's no way to remove that out of the picture. It happened, and that's just how it is. But if there's a different situation, like your romantic partner is the reason that you do drugs, then you would need to remove that person from your life. I hope you enjoyed the second video on drug addictions, where I focus on a new character, and I can't wait to make the next video.